everyone, welcome to this session of Unshakable Living, where we take the shakeable items in life and get it to the unshakable state for you. Today we're going to focus on credit, and credit is such an important topic. There's actually two parts to this. Today we're going to cover part 1, which is chapter 3 in the class, and then we're going to have a second part on how to actually take that credit side of things and leverage it to your advantage versus just taking care of it to make sure it's not a huge disadvantage to your finances. So let's dive right in. First things first, I think one of the best ways to talk about credit is to share a story, and this one is very personal to me because it happened to me. Now, unlike a lot of people may see, when you get to financial success, they go, oh, I always made the right decisions on things. That is the farthest thing from the truth. I've made multiple poor decisions along the way, and I wish I would have had somebody like myself at that time to say, hey, let's take a look at this before you dive right in. But like many people, we go, let's go in and give this a shot. So here's my story. Back when I was a 8th grade science teacher, that's what I did right out of college, taught 8th grade science, I had a lucrative contract that paid me $32,000 a year. I had just bought my first house. I was fortunate enough to know how to save my money and make sure that that first house fit within my budget. But real estate, stock market, everything was booming at the time, and I was already thinking, here I am, 24, man, I want some piece of this myself. How do I get it? So I started talking to a bunch of people, ended up finding one person who I thought was a friend at the time, who had had some success with the business he had and was sitting on a decent amount of cash. He came to me and he goes, tell you what, I got one of the best deals for you. We're going to go 50-50 and get in on this real estate boom. I have the money for it, so I can finance everything. But I did have a bankruptcy a few years ago. And with the bankruptcy, it wiped out his credit score where it was so low that they wouldn't even allow financing for him. I, on the other hand, had stellar credit, had always paid all my bills on time, never had a 30-day late or anything. So he goes, knowing you got good credit and knowing the way we can get financing right now, let's go out, you get the financing, put it in your name, I will pay for everything, and we both win. Seemed like a perfect scenario. We found a house down in Florida, on the water, pool, hot tub, whole 9 yards. It was a great looking place in a booming area. $635,000 at the time was the price tag on it. Because of my stellar credit, I was able to go in and get what they called a no income, no asset verification loan at the time, and got a $635,000 loan. Again, no money down. $635,000 loan on a person that makes $32,000 a year as a second home. It was crazy to see that that could happen, but we got it. I'm thinking this is working out great. First year in, the house already went up about $125,000. Everything is looking great. We're renting it out. We go down from time to time, enjoy it. Everything is going as planned. Then the markets, housing market, stock market, banks went upside down and things started to crash down. Well, that second year, the other partner, his money started to run out as well. His other business started to fail. Came to me and said, sorry, Mike, you're on your own. I'm out of money. So now I'm stuck with the house in my name, bought it at $635,000. It's now down to $500,000 on the appraised value and going down. And I have a $7,000 a month bill to pay to keep that house up and running. Again, on $32,000 of income. So, a few lessons here. I could have fretted on this thing and said, this was unfair. That person lied to me about where they were. The bank, they shouldn't have done this. All sorts of things. And a lot of people go that route. But in reality, I point the finger back at myself. I knew it was a big risk going. I couldn't finance that house myself if I had to pay for it full time. The way the bank gave me the money, it felt, I still remember signing off on that going, this is crazy that they're giving me this money. So again, I learned the lesson. Instead of taking it as a failure in life, I looked at it and said, what are the lessons learned? Now this lesson cost me $150,000. At that time, I had about $80,000 saved up in my various accounts. Again, being 24 years old, wasn't off to a bad start. Had to use all that and then borrow as much credit as I possibly could at high interest rates to offset the loss I took in the house when it finally sold. Learn the lesson. The hard way sometimes is the best way if you can recover from it. And everybody can recover from these things. I've had multiple ones. That was a big one. There were others along the way, but that's why we're here today saying, let's take this before you get into that shakeable state, or even if you've had that before, you can get out and again, get into the unshakable side of things. So let's talk about credit, how the score affects the interest rates you pay and why that has such an impact on your overall finances. We're going to go straight to the book for this one. So let's dive in. Here we are. Credit score ranges. This came from NerdWallet as far as what's considered good, bad, excellent, and everything in between. So anything below 630 considered bad credit. Well, what does bad credit actually mean? It doesn't mean you're a bad person by any means, but what it means is, one, you haven't paid all your bills on time. So, two, you're not going to get much credit, or if you do, it's going to be very expensive for you to get. They're going to charge a high interest rate. As you go up that tier, where everybody definitely wants to get to is the 720 to 850. Actually, I've even heard 740 for the excellent credit and above is where you want to get to. So that way, anything you finance, you'll get the best possible rates. Why is this important? Well, if we take a look, this chart shows the difference between low rates and high rates and how they can really affect you. So let's take this as an example. $25,000 is an amount being borrowed out. And you can pay $250 a month to pay this off. Well, if it's at a 5% interest rate, it'll take roughly 10 years, 10 months to pay off the $25,000, and you're going to pay an additional $7,407.12 in interest. So $25,000 realistically cost you $32,400, but again, you got whatever you wanted at that time and were able to get it paid off over the course of 10 years at $250 a month. If that rate goes up to 10%, again, a lot of people, what's crazy on the investment side, nowadays if I say, hey, this is likely to possibly get around a 10% return, or that's what it's done historically, I literally have people going, I don't know if that's good enough. Well, let's see how big of impact it can have on you on the credit side of things. $25,000 at 10% and you pay $250 a month, takes 18 years to pay off. That number of interest is quadruple what it was, even though the interest rate was only double. So $28,000 total interest, you paid more than double for the entire amount borrowed. Paid over $53,000. Insane. Even worse, 15%. So now we didn't even double this one. We only took it up 50%, $25,000, same payment. This repayment period goes on forever. You actually will not be able to pay it off if you're only paying $250 at 15%. So the interest is infinite. So think about that. 15% interest. A lot of people have that in credit card rates, if not 16, if not 17. In fact, I've seen 29.99 people are paying on their credit cards. If you're paying that high of interest and you're only making minimum payments, it's the fatal financial mistake you're making with your finances. It's all going to fall apart there because all you're paying is interest. You're never going to get that money. So find a way to pay that off as fast as possible. Credit-wise, we got to get that credit score up in order for you to get better or best rates out there. What makes up your credit? Here's the items that my FICO says make up your credit score. Payment history is 35% of it. Payment history meaning if you don't pay it on time, a 30-day late is when it becomes effective and it hurts your credit. 60-day and 90-day lates, even a bigger impact. If it's longer than that, that's when, again, this is really going to tank your credit because 35% of it is reliable on that payment history. Credit utilization is 30%. What does this mean? Well, credit utilization is the amount that you have out on the line of credit you are allowed. So on a home, when you get the mortgage, it's going to be 100% of it. Maybe it's a $300,000 loan, and that's where it's going to start. So there's not an additional amount on it. Credit cards are a little bit different, though. If you get a credit card, it may have a $10,000 budget, or I should say limit, and how much are you using on that? If it's 40% or less, it will help your credit. If it's 40% or more, it hurts your credit. So again, in that $10,000 credit card example, $4,000 or more taken out on it is going to hurt your credit. If it's $4,000 or less, it can benefit it. So with that credit utilization, one of the things trained people is once they get control of their credit cards and don't spend every penny they're told they can borrow, that's the main one, then go in and say, hey, can you bump up my line of credit? Because now it again gives you this credit utilization, a smaller ratio. So if I have instead of the $10,000, now I have a $20,000 line of credit available to me, and I still just have that $4,000. Now I'm only at 20% utilization instead of the 40%. Then it gets down to length of credit history, 15% there. Here's where, how long have you borrowed and how good have you paid back over that time frame? A mistake I see a lot of people make is they go out, they get a 0% interest credit card, and they cancel their old ones. Might as well keep the old one because that's going to show credit utilization. If you just cancel it every time, your credit history is short every single time, maybe a year or 2 years. So keep that credit history out there by keeping those open, even if you're not utilizing them. Hard inquiries, those are when you actually go in and say, you know what, I'm thinking about getting a car loan. Yes, run my credit. If they run this multiple times, you'll see a negative impact. If it's ran just once or twice in a bigger window, a 6-month, 12-month window, not going to see much of an impact on it. And then the last part was credit mix. So how is this? Is it credit cards, auto loan, student loan, mortgage? What do you all have? Or is it all just credit card? Or is it all auto loans? So again, that credit mix will also have an impact on your finances. So understanding this can help you get that control of your credit score. With that, I want to end this first one, and we're going to dive into the second one. We're going to talk a little bit more about how to now take advantage of the credit once you have it under control. So key takeaways, can hit you in the face with the honesty on it. If you can't control your credit, meaning if you're told you can borrow $10,000 and you borrow it right away and spend it, do not even bother getting credit. It's pretty straightforward on it. Once you can control your credit, really keep this in mind on those interest rates. If you have one that has a high interest rate, pay it off immediately if possible. If not, that should be one of your top focuses. Again, if you have a 15% interest on a credit card, don't worry about investing until you can get that under control, because again, you pay that off, you just saved yourself 15%. So focus on that. Last part of it, focus on the different ways your credit score can go up. What are you doing to maximize that? So again, when you do need to borrow, when you're buying a house, buying a car, that you get offered the best possible rate instead of being taken to the cleaners by getting a rate that's double or triple what you could get if you had great credit. With that, see you on part 2 of the credit, and keep your unshakable living going.